Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's a Saturday morning. I don't think I'm going to you to I don't think I'm going to yoga class this morning, so I decided to start the stream a little closer to 10, and then I decided to the computer wanted to update and reboot, so that pushed the time back, and the weather is beautiful today, so I was on the porch doing something, and long story short, the start time got pushed back. So this morning, for the next hour, I am going to creatively talk about the new viral particle that is in the news. I'm going to try not to say it. I'm going to project it at some point because I have a link here from, I think, the CDC or the Mayo Clinic, but I'm going to talk about it. And the reason I'm going to take this approach, so we're gonna use a lot of code words today. The reason being, as my father says, is because I think this is going to fall under the umbrella of topics that YouTube doesn't want us talking about. Okay. Um, I haven't seen I've heard murmurings of this here in the YouTube streets. I don't watch, well, the mainstream news right now is dominated by our current president and the Strait of Hormuz. And there are some stories online about this, but YouTube was very, very funny about talking about contagions and the possibility of more world health crises. So I'm going to talk when I talk about this particular thing, I'm going to do it a little bit gingerly. All right. Whoever is here, please smash that like button and let me know who's here, who's hanging out with me for the next hour. Okay, we are live. And yeah, as per usual, I didn't set up all the bells and whistles backstage, but this is not monetized anyway, so it doesn't really matter at this point. Let me share this to my community tab over on my main signal antenna, and we'll get going here. Tony, you're the first one in. Thank you for being here. Please let me know what you guys think about any of this. Aquateki, salute. Thank you for being here. All right. Let me just do this. Wait a minute. Aquateki said something creative here. He says, call it the H no I. H no I. Is that I don't know. Is that you know what, Aquateki, maybe we'll try that. Maybe we'll try that. We'll call it the H. Maybe we'll see. But I'm going to avoid saying the actual name because YouTube runs a pretty sophisticated operation here. I mean, there's AI and I guess bots looking at the pictures, listening to our voices, to what we're saying, and so on, so on. And so if you say that wrong thing, they will cut your stream short and they will snatch your video down. And as I learned about 5 years ago, they will remove your channel altogether. So they were gracious enough. Thank you, YouTube, for restoring my channel 5 to 6 years ago during the last World Health Crisis. But they will do that. Okay, so under these new settings, I don't know how to share a video to my community tab the way I used to. So you know what? We'll just get going here, and whoever comes, and whoever comes. All right. So Aquateki says, greetings, Dr. Dunbar in chat. All right. We will listen to some words from the nameless protagonist, and then I will jump in. We'll get started. So I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I think this is the significance of when you say the technology is running so far out ahead of the biology, right? Because it's almost shattering that part of our natural um, programming.
So what's going on, what that really talks to is the reason why it's done that way is our systems operate on a seniority based modality. So the older the particular system we've adopted, the more powerful that neurological pathway and impulse. That's why these studies are critical. Everything in our biology is predicated on these kinds of principles. The reasons why we were able to evolve as a group, because there were certain things that we were able to lean on from the group aggregate existence that allows for us to do things as individuals that are defined as healthy. And when you begin to do wholesale swapping out on a one-for-one of social modality versus technological introduction, then you begin to atrophy a lot of these things and you start having deficiencies in ways you had no idea, or you get unintended emergent behavior, as we're seeing with the behavioral sinks, for example. It's all connected to social roles, in my subjective opinion.
Welcome to Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. Science and technology stories are all around us, and there are always science and technology stories to tell. Science and technology stories are all around us, and there are always science and technology stories to tell. Everybody, welcome back to Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and I think we'll start right there. So, many of you know that another so-called doctor in cyberspace, in pop culture, has recently dominated the news cycle for because of her credentials or her lack of credentials. And I was on a panel in an impromptu way yesterday, talking with two other PhDs, and I just want to reiterate that my credentials are real. Okay, there's a diploma sitting on the wall back there underneath my Johnson C. Smith University letters and my University of Michigan flag. That is a real doctorate. But and you can find receipts. If you Google me, I've been Googled. I've been Googled for numerous reasons. I've been Googled for numerous reasons. I know in one instance it was to see, I think, what my academic credentials were. So if you Google me, you will find two first author papers, one from drug metabolism and disposition. These are from the early 2000s. And then the other one is from molecular pharmacology. And you'll find me on several other second and third and fourth author. I was the second or third or fourth author on those papers. So you'll find those online, and you should see some record of my thesis defense. So I am a legitimate PhD. Okay. Now I like to say this because it's true. I introduce myself as Dr. Dunbar here for in part for credibility. I mean, depending upon which channel you're watching me on, because I have several channels, these credentials lend themselves. These credentials mean more probably here than others, but I introduce myself that way in part for legitimacy, but also in part for entertainment and to stand out. But I said this yesterday. I've also come to realize that I need to be careful about what I talk about here for my own self-image here, meaning in cyberspace. Number one, people are checking people. You never know who's digging up your content and your tweets. People are digging through your tweets and your posts of all kind. But also, I am a representative of the university in my program, so I am me announcing that I am Dr. Dunbar. I I I I'm a representative. I am an emissary of the University of Michigan Department of Pharmacology. So there's a bit of a responsibility there as well. So I just wanted to say that people care about your credentials. People care about your academic pedigree, and that plays a role in people believing and people trusting what you say. And people will look you up. They will look up your paper trail and your receipts and your invoices to see if you are who you say you are. So we live in that type of society and culture. Okay. So I just wanted to say that super Triz, thank you for the salute. Salute to you. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Those of you who are in the know what that means and know who that comes from. So he's reporting for duty. And then Aquateki says, none of them nefarious, we hope. I think you're referring to the papers, my first author papers online. Okay. Before I jump in, now that credentialing and doctor talking is out of the way, I was reminded this morning through numerous people that, with social media, I guess this is more behavioral biology and psychology, of which I'm not a psychologist, but with the social media and just with the human condition and human nature, everybody has an opinion. Everybody is not going to, for a given thing that's presented, everybody is not going to see it the same way. Everybody's not going to understand it. Everybody is not going to feel the same way about a given topic. So, and in this era, everybody has a microphone with which they can voice their opinion, or everyone has keys with which they can type and say, no, that's not true. You're wrong. It was this, it was that. I don't see the point in that. I'm not impressed by that, blah, 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 blah. So just a little commentary on the technology and the human condition. And today, most people have a microphone, and everybody has an opinion. Give me one moment, guys. I'm gonna go and grab a book from my bookshelf, and I'm gonna come right back. We'll jump right in. All right, I'm back. I need to straighten things up a little bit. I was looking for a book on the bookshelf and it's not there. And I seem to remember it being over here near the printer. And now I don't see it. But in any case, we have Google, so let's pull it up here on Google. There's the video I'm going to show before we talk about the new contagion floating around. What is the weather? Let's get some participation here. What is the weather like where you guys are? Okay, so in the Washington, D.C. area, we're right here in the mid-Atlantic. We're right here in the mid-Atlantic. So we're kind of, it gets really, really hot. The further south you go in terms of latitude. Those are the steps. Latitude should be latitude. And then the further north you go toward the Great Lakes and then into Canada, it gets colder because you're approaching the poles. But the Washington, D.C. area, especially in the spring, the weather tends to go like this. It gets very, very schizophrenic. Okay. So we are in mid-May right now, and it hasn't completely transitioned to summer yet. Okay. So, but I feel like this time of year, we should already have started cooking a little bit in terms of temperature. Okay, but it's so to me, the way I'm perceiving it, and Aquateki, you said you're in. Okay, so Tony, Passport OG. Should I say this online? Man, I sent you an email a little while ago, but you're a busy guy. You're cranking them out every day, so you probably didn't see my email. But that's okay. I didn't take it personally. Domo. So Tony says it's 88 degrees here in Georgia. Okay. I know Arizona is starting to cook. I watch the weather every morning. Aquateki says 75 and sunny in Baltimore. We're close. So I'm sure Baltimore has experienced the schizophrenic temperature as well. Passport OG says northern Kyushu, we are already at 28 degrees at 60 to 70% humidity in mid-May. Okay, so it looks like you guys are on schedule or off schedule. Let me know. And he says looking at 80 and 90s in the next week. Okay, so maybe this area is catching up to where it's supposed to be. But he says I'm on it. But weather, when you're talking about the weather and the temperature and the climate, there's making your regional specific observations, and then there's making global, understanding the global data. So there's something, there's understanding it from a regional, local perspective / context, and then there's understanding the entire planet. Okay, so you have to be careful when you're listening to these conversations and you hear Al Gore say the world is burning up, the oceans are boiling, the polar bears are losing their habitat. I mean, is it strange on your YouTube channels? Any of you guys are any of you guys seeing ads from Chimu for tours to Antarctica? Are any of you guys seeing that? I'm getting a lot of ads on my YouTube channel, the one that I watch for most of my stuff. I'm getting a lot of ads from Chimu for tours to Antarctica. Antarctica is not, while it looks, you're at the lower tip of the world, that is not at the top of my priority list for places to travel. But it's strange that with the polar ice caps melting, that now they're scheduling tours to go down there. I'm saying all this to say that with the weather here going like this in the Washington, D.C. area, I thought about this book. And I've showed you guys this book. Before. This is Dark Winter by John Casey. Okay. And I think that the main takeaway from this book, okay, is that the sun is not a generator. The sun is not generating consistent output. Okay. Over decades and within decades, the sun is not just like this light bulb here, just radiating. The sun has sun cycles. It generates a solar wind. Its output goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. And when the sun's output changes, okay, that's going to have an impact on the temperature and the climate that we experience here on Earth. So most people think of what we experience here on Earth as being impacted by tailpipe emissions and fluorinated gases and all the stuff that man is doing. But you don't really hear a lot of talk about what the Earth is doing itself, or what the sun is doing, or what the other planets in the solar system are doing to impact the climate and the temperature here on the Earth. So just something to keep in mind. He wrote this about 20 years ago. He predicted that the winters would get pretty long and pretty cold, probably right about now and going forward for a while. So if the temperature seems a little odd where you are, keep in mind that there are multiple inputs to the temperature and the climate that we're experiencing when we go outside every day. All right. So with that in mind, we're going to watch a short video about whether or not Tornado Alley is shifting. Okay, this popped up on one of my other channels, not related to science, and I watched it and I said this would be interesting to present here to my audience. So when you watch this, remember, I haven't shown any Dr. Willie Soon videos or drops recently. We did email a little bit, and I do need to finish reading his paper. I would like to talk to him someday. But in one of his videos, one of the first ones I watched, where he questioned the climate alarmism, he shared the principle that what causes tornadoes, what causes Tornado Alley, is when you have warm temperatures coming in from the Caribbean and cold temperatures of the Great Plains superimposing themselves or overlapping. When those warm temperatures come in and you have those cool temperatures already there, that's what causes the tornadoes. So if you see a decrease in tornadoes, that's because the temperatures coming in from the Caribbean are cooler. So you need that gradient. You need those cool temperatures and those warm temperatures, and that's what causes the tornadoes. So let's watch this video really, really quickly. It's only 11 minutes, and then we'll talk about the new contagion that's been in the news. Let's see. Give me a second here. Go to my history. Passport OG, have you covered the non-doctor lady yourself? I don't think I saw what you presented yesterday, if you did present something, but did you create anything on the non-doctor lady? Okay, let me cue this up. Fair use. This is called Tornado Alley is moving. And so, as they'll describe, we think of Tornado Alley as the Great Plains, the breadbasket, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, the middle of the state. And this video is asking the question, is Tornado Alley moving east towards Chicagoland and Memphis, Alabama, that region? Get rid of this guy. He's got a nice beard, just like me.
Not being a gifted kid who grew up to achieve absolutely nothing.
By realizing that your problem
a region known as Tornado Alley. But scientists have discovered that Tornado Alley is moving.
This is definitely a trend. This is real.
And this matters for a particularly disturbing reason. The places gaining tornado risk are also places where tornadoes are far more deadly.
Disaster potential is growing exponentially.
Hey, are any of you familiar with her? Mia May? I'm not familiar with her. Have any of you guys seen her before? All right, fair use.
Far more deadly.
Disaster potential is growing exponentially in those regions. The deck is stacked against them.
Before I could even get up, I was sucked through the window. Nothing like that's ever happened around here.
So where exactly is Tornado Alley shifting to? What do we know about why it's moving? And why is this change making tornadoes so much more deadly?
Oh my goodness.
Becomes very striking when you see the visual representation of a map or look at the risk through time at a specific location. You start to say, wow, this is definitely a trend. This is real.
This is Victor Gensini. He's the atmospheric scientist who first discovered Tornado Alley's shift, but the idea didn't occur to him in the lab.
I first started to think about Tornado Alley moving after several years of storm chasing in the ground.
Are you guys afraid of tornadoes? I would be afraid if I was standing in a countryside and I saw one of these things forming myself. So I do not want to be around when something like this starts forming in the sky. But let me know what you think. Are you guys afraid of these things? Fair use.
Great Plains, where we had very low frequency years. And I was thinking, this is supposed to be the greatest frequency location on Earth.
So he went back to his lab to crunch the numbers.
And lo and behold, when you start plotting the trend at any given city, what you start to notice is that places in the Great Plains have been declining over the last 40 to 50 years.
But the overall number of tornadoes across the country wasn't declining, which meant they had to be going up somewhere else.
Everybody was telling me, like, when you get ready to get home, be careful. And my daughter had told me, be careful. When I come outside, it was like really warm, really calm, and it wasn't storming or raining or anything. So I just drove on home like any normal day. And I got home, I turned the TV on to see how the weather was, and I guess I just dozed off to sleep, and then that's when it came.
This is Heather Chambers. She lives in Wingo, Kentucky, and didn't expect the night of December 10th, 2021 to be particularly memorable.
I woke up like the house felt like it was like moving almost like taking a deep breath and letting it out. It's almost what it felt like. And I sat up, and then immediately I heard the sound of glass breaking. And before I could even get up, I was sucked through the window.
Heather survived the deadliest December tornado on record. Multiple weather patterns came together to create at least 66 tornadoes across the Midwest and Ohio Valley. But here's the thing. Wingo, Kentucky, where Heather lives, isn't in traditional Tornado Alley, but it is squarely in the region where tornadoes are on the rise. To understand exactly where this new risk is moving, we first need to look at why Tornado Alley exists.
Okay, let's go back and look at that map. Yeah, so they're asserting that it's shifting toward the east. So that's Chicagoland, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Alabama, Memphis, Kentucky, Indiana. Okay. All right, let's go back. Fair use.
On the rise. To understand exactly where this new risk is moving, we first need to look at why Tornado Alley exists in the first place. It all basically comes down to a geographical fluke. North America is the only continent in the world that extends all the way from the Arctic to the tropics without any major mountain ranges cutting across from east to west, leaving the central part of the continent wide open to colliding air masses. So Tornado Alley is the meeting place of three different types of air masses: warm, moist air from the Gulf, cold, dry air from Canada, and warm, dry air from the desert Southwest.
See, Dr. Dunbar knows his stuff. I don't have a PhD in this, but I watch things and I take notes. So warm air coming from the Caribbean, cold air coming from the north. And okay, so we can add the warm air coming from the Phoenix, Mexico area, and it all converges right there in the middle. So if for whatever reason your warm temperatures depress, you're not going to get as many tornadoes. All right, fair use.
Which, meteorologically speaking, makes this region incredibly unstable.
So when we're trying to make a tornado in the atmosphere, one of the things that we look for is instability. That's the air to naturally want to rise and create clouds and thunderstorms. We also look for a lifting mechanism, which is something to kick that air and push it upward fast to develop not just clouds, but thunderstorms.
And then the final crucial ingredient is wind shear.
And that's how wind changes with speed and direction as we go up in the atmosphere.
Wind shear is what allows storms to strengthen, stay organized, and begin to rotate because it separates the storm's updraft from the downdraft.
Wind shear is that changing direction with height. And so what happens is as precipitation is lifted through the cloud, it'll lift on one side of the cloud and then fall on the other side. If we don't have wind shear, rain lifts and then it falls right on top of itself and we lose the updraft. It'll all rain and then the clouds go away and we're done.
So to recap here, the main ingredients needed for tornado formation are moisture, instability, lift, and wind shear.
So when we look at how tornado environments are changing, we can look at how changes in those individual ingredients are changing over time as well.
Every coffee and
Hold on.
espresso. What else?
Scientists believe the key to this eastward shift might come down to an atmospheric feature known as the cap. This is a layer of hot, dry air that parks itself right above the warm, humid air from the Gulf, suppressing storm development below it.
And you allow all of that energy to store up, just like you're boiling water on a stove. And then eventually, if the storms can become strong enough, they break through that lid, they break through that cap. And that's when you get the explosive development that we see with supercells.
Now here's
about 2 years ago, I interviewed a gentleman named Dr. Lee Phillips. That was a pre-record, and I cut it up into 6 parts. His background and research was in fluid dynamics. So atmospheric, if I recall correctly, atmospheric fluid dynamics. So I think that this is an application for that. Or I think this is related to that.
why the map is shifting. The American Southwest is getting hotter and drier, and this is making the cap stronger and suppressing storm formation in the western part of traditional Tornado Alley in places like Texas. But further east, in places like Wingo, it's a different story. A warming Gulf of Mexico is pumping extreme moisture and instability into the Mid-South, providing the kind of explosive fuel needed to punch through that strong cap and
that arrow is going straight to Memphis. Memphis doesn't need any more problems right now. Memphis and Justin Pearson already have enough on their hands. Fair use. But this is interesting because you know when you think about the United States and maybe someplace like Memphis, you don't think about it in terms of being influenced by weather patterns from the Caribbean, but to this, you know, it's all one connected system. It's not these aren't isolated parts. These are all one connected system here.
shifting the danger zone right to Heather's front door.
And then you start to look at the numbers in places like Memphis, right? Some of the mid-south of the US, and you start to see an increase in the number of frequency of tornadoes and strong tornadoes there.
Now, this doesn't mean the Great Plains are no longer the nation's main tornado hotspot. They still are. The point is that the data show a robust downward trend in parts of the traditional Great Plains and an upward trend farther east.
Tornado Alley is the area where tornadoes are most frequent. Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. That's where we know tornadoes are most likely to occur. However, if we look at where tornado deaths and fatal tornadoes are most likely to occur, it's in the Mid-South. It's Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas.
Which makes sense because there are a few key differences between traditional Tornado Alley and these southeast tornadoes. The first is that they're really fast.
In Kansas, you could sit out in the middle of a field and see a storm moving 5 miles per hour. That's not the case in central Alabama. When the storms get there, they're moving 60, 70 miles per hour.
But the next factor is part of the reason that Heather's story is so intense. After Heather was pulled through her window by the tornado, she landed a few hundred feet from her house where her neighbor found her under piles of debris.
But it was pitch black. You couldn't see anything. It's amazing that he even found me.
Heather experienced a nighttime tornado, which is incredibly dangerous. But in traditional Tornado Alley, tornadoes mostly occur between the afternoon and early evening, typically between April and June.
Conversely, in the Southeast United States, there's pretty much no annual cycle and there's very little diurnal cycle as well. So the story here is that in the Southeast, you can have tornadoes any time of the year and any time of the day.
And all this means more tornadoes at night. Nocturnal tornadoes are about twice as deadly as their daytime counterparts. During the day, a tornado may be visible from miles away. At night, it can be effectively invisible until it's right on top of you, which is exactly what Heather experienced. These nocturnal tornadoes are actually more likely in the southeast because of its proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, which supplies warm, moist air reliably throughout the year and around the clock.
Guys, isn't that scary? And when you think about places to retire and spend the rest of your life, certainly the Gulf Coast, the Southeast, those areas rank pretty high because of their nice temperature. But nighttime tornadoes, very, very scary.
People go to sleep, the storm's still chugging along because it has plenty of moisture and heat to work with. And then at 2 a.m., here comes the tornado moving 70 miles per hour in the southeast.
But there's another reason Tornado Alley shift is so dangerous, and it has nothing to do with weather or climate change.
Dorothy running to the shelter with the tornado dancing behind her in the middle of the field. That's not a common sight anymore. Now that tornado's dancing through a brand new subdivision.
Tornado Alley is moving to more populated places. So that means damage to more homes, roads, and neighborhoods. Simply more chances for a tornado to hit something or someone.
Aguteki, I think you nailed it. You said when most of American residential construction is cardboard and matchsticks, tornadoes will always be bad news. Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about also all of the insurance costs of this. All right, this is almost done, guys. Fair use, fair use.
After the night of December 10th, Heather's life totally changed.
You couldn't have told me, like, a storm's coming. I'm like, oh, well, it's a storm. But now it's like they're saying on Tuesday of next week we may have storms. Like, I'm preparing today for a storm that may be coming next Tuesday. I think everybody should take it seriously. Like, always have some kind of plan in progress.
I asked our experts how to prepare for a tornado, and they told me the most important thing was to do exactly what Heather has done: plan ahead. But they had a few more simple yet crucial recommendations.
You do not want to be in a vehicle. We know that you are in a vehicle, you are very likely to become a casualty. Your outcome will certainly depend mostly on the type of structure that you're in.
Put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. A smaller interior room is going to be better than a larger interior room. Stay away from windows.
Get to the lowest floor possible. Just get to an interior room and put as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. Even the strongest tornadoes are very unlikely to kill you as long as you take those precautions.
These are from Eastside Concrete. They're actually for septic systems, but the night of the tornado, people had actually got into the 6 shelter, and houses were damaged all the way around, but these were still intact. I've had 6 people and a dog safely in here taking shelter from the storm. It's like peace of mind almost to me, knowing that I have somewhere to go.
That shift from assuming it probably won't happen to you where you are to preparing like it could happen tonight may be one of the most important adaptations of all. But we'd love to hear from you. What preparations have you made for your local hazards? What preparations do you plan to make? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. In show-related news, we recently joined Patreon in response to federal funding being eliminated to public media. Something optimistic that we've learned since then is that a large majority of our subscribers say they do so simply to support the show. Now, don't get us wrong, our Patreon perks are great and we love bringing them to you. But if you are looking for a direct and simple way to help this show continue even after being defunded, please check out our link. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, I think, yeah, guys, we're going to go on to our main event, as Dr. Thunder says, the main event. But I thought that would be interesting to show. Shout out to UFO Kamikaze. He's stopped through. He says Southeastern North Carolina resident, hurricanes, and eventually Tornado Alley. Okay. It's an honor to have you here, UFO Kamikaze. I see you making the rounds in multiple chats. So it's an honor to have you come here every time you do. All you guys. It's a Saturday morning. You could be out at the beach somewhere. Kalua 9235 says old folks are scared of bugs. Akuteki says 28 degrees Celsius equals 82.4 Fahrenheit for the uninitiated. Passport OG says SI units are for the people. Akuteki says LOL, the Passport OG, I'm slowly seeing the light myself. He says, WTF is a friggin' foot, man. I'm not sure where this is going. Kalua says, the Perth group, the terrain versus germ theory. We are prime and ready for another. See, we're going to get to that. Haven't covered Dr. Nay yet. I hope we're talking about the same doctor. I think we're talking about the same doctor. We're of the same mind, Passport OG, so I think we're talking about the same doctor. He says, I saw this. Weather patterns are shifting. Asia is getting typhoons forming in spring now. But the question is, why? Is it us evil humans, or is it Mother Nature doing what Mother Nature does? He says, tornadoes are terrifying. Yes, they are. And UFO Kamikaze says respect and more. Yeah, UFO Kamikaze, I think a show we both like to watch on Friday night. I think it got cut short last night because he was talking about Dr. Nay. Okay. So guys, before we move on, let's just take a quick look at who that lady was. In that documentary. I'm not familiar with her. I'm sure you guys would like to see who that is as well. This is Maya May. Okay. About me. So let's learn a little bit about this lady. All right. There she is, giving us that smile. Science communicator, TV host, content creator, speaker. I'm just going to read just a little bit here. I'm a passionate storyteller, science communicator, and host. My ultimate goal is to build a legacy rooted in my love for nature by creating thought-provoking content that strengthens knowledge, appreciation, and connection to our natural world. Let's just read a little bit more here. My passion for nature developed in my adolescent years. My childhood home was located in the outskirts of Davidson, Arabia Mountain Nature Preserve in Lithonia, Georgia. Oh, she's a Georgia peach. Neighborhood friends and I would make a habit of exploring the area, especially during the summer months. We'd wander through abandoned structures on Vaughters Farm and ride our bikes along the trails that traverse the area. One of our favorite trails led to a newly built school that I would eventually attend, Arabia Mountain High School Academy of Engineering, Medicine, and Environmental Studies during my time at AMHS. I learned more about our natural world and how to protect it. Those formative years would set the foundation for a career that I would eventually forge in weather, climate, and environmental science. Just okay. So she studied at, since we're highly concerned about credentials these days, the university. Okay, so I spent my undergraduate years at the University of Missouri Columbia. Okay, in geography and atmospheric science. Her goal was to pursue broadcasting meteorology. Okay. All right. I'll stop that there. Now we know who this is. This is Maya May, in case you guys see her again. And I will drop her link in the chat in case any of you guys want to go and read some more about Maya May. So that's there. So as Dr. Thunder says, now on to our main event. I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly. I apologize that part took so long. If anyone wants to make a donation to the channel, I appreciate you guys being here. This channel is not monetized, and if YouTube doesn't like what we're about to talk about, this channel could go away altogether after this. But my my information is there in the ticker if anybody wants to throw something in the collection plate. No, again. All right. So our main event. And I'm going to speak in code. In code. You have to do that on YouTube, speak in code sometimes, because some words are not allowed. So this is from the Mayo Clinic. You guys can do a quick Google search and find this yourself. Someone said, I think it was Kahlua. Yeah. Unfortunately, guys, this has been talked about, that there might be another one of these coming. I hope not. I don't think any of us want to be quarantined into our own places anymore. Okay. Fortunately, last time we did have the internet, we did have social media. If you had projects, if you were content creators, you were well off. But in general, I don't think anybody wants this. Anybody wants to be subject to this again. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this does not lead to that. All right. The H pulmonary syndrome. That's what I'm going to call it. The H pulmonary syndrome. All right. This is from the Mayo Clinic overview. The H pulmonary syndrome is a rare infectious disease that begins with flu-like symptoms. Sounds familiar, right? Flu-like symptoms. It quickly becomes a more severe disease. The syndrome can lead to life-threatening lung and heart problems. The disease is also called the H particle cardiopulmonary syndrome. Several strains of the H particle can cause H particle pulmonary syndrome. These strains are carried by different types of rodents. Okay, so if you have critters visiting your place, okay, and many of us have critters visiting our places, that could be a concern since these are the carriers, it seems, for now. These strains are carried by different types of rodents. North America, the Sin nombre viral particle is spread by the deer mouse. Infection is usually caused by inhaling airborne rodent urine droppings or saliva that contain the H particles. This strain doesn't pass from person to person. In South America, the Andes particle is spread by long-tailed pygmy rice rat. Infections by this strain most often start when a person inhales rodent urine droppings or saliva, but it can pass from a person with symptoms to other people. Close contacts, such as family members, are at the highest risk of person-to-person spread. Because treatment options are limited, the best protection against the H particle pulmonary syndrome is to avoid contact with rodents and safely clean up rodent habitats. So the key denominator here seems to be rodents, the presence of rodents. All right. And apparently the current concern is that people on a luxury liner, a cruise ship, came down with it. I don't know where they came from. Let's take a look. Let's take a look on Google to see where those people came from, or where that cruise line went. Google brought it right up. South America. Give me a second here, guys. Let's see if my mom's watching this. I know she'd say, well, see, this is another reason why you don't need to go to South America and Central America. You need to stay right here. Aquateki, that's an interesting point. Okay, so this says, how do people get the H virus on cruise ships? Okay, AI says people contracted the H particle on the MV Hondius cruise ship through two main vectors: initial exposure to infected rodents during shore excursions and subsequent human-to-human transmission. Okay, the initial land exposure. Health officials believe the outbreak originated with a Dutch couple who contracted the particle during a bird watching and wildlife tour in Argentina and Chile before boarding the ship. In rare cases, exposure on other wildlife islands off the coast of Africa may also have contributed. Okay, the outbreak. So this says person-to-person transmission. The outbreak involved the Andes particle strain. Unlike most H viruses, the H particles, I'm sorry, YouTube, the Andes strain is unique because it can spread between people. The virus spread on board through prolonged close contact, the sharing of confined spaces such as cabins, and potentially the airborne transmission of respiratory secretions. Okay. No ship infestations. Tests revealed that there were no rodent infestations on the MV Hondius itself. The virus was introduced by the initial travelers and passed to others in the closed environment. Yeah, any of you guys who have been on cruise ships? Any of you guys who've been on cruise ships? Those are a lot of fun, but yes, you are one big petri dish. Okay, your rooms are right next to each other. You guys are getting in swimming pools together. You guys are eating in buffets and restaurants and all together. Okay, much the same way in a land dwelling, the ship has its own sewage and its own plumbing system. So yeah, when you get on a cruise ship, if someone brings something on before the cruise or during the cruise, you are in danger of catching that, whatever it is. So Argentina. I heard Argentina is not too welcoming to people like us, unlike places like Colombia and Panama and the DR. Argentina that's an aside. Let's see. Aquateki says ships and rodents have a long history together. I didn't know that. And he said floating incubators. Yeah, it's one big people are partying and drinking and yelling and dancing and sweating. So it's one big petri dish. All right, let me wrap this up. Let's go back to the Mayo Clinic. A fun petri dish, especially if you get the unlimited drink option. A fun petri dish. I recommend the unlimited drink option. I think you save money in the long term. Symptoms of the H particle. The time from infection with the H particle to the start of illness may be 1 to 8 weeks. Often symptoms start about 2 to 4 weeks after exposure. The H particle pulmonary syndrome advances through 2 distinct stages. The first stage, which can last for several days. The most common signs and symptoms are fever and chills, muscle aches or pain, headache. Some people experience nausea, stomach pain, vomiting, diarrhea. As the disease progresses, it can lead to damaged lung tissues, fluid buildup in the lungs, and serious problems with lung and heart function. Symptoms may include cough, difficulty breathing, low blood pressure, irregular heart rate. And then went to see a doctor. The symptoms of the H particle pulmonary syndrome can worsen suddenly and may quickly become life-threatening if you have flu-like symptoms that progressively worsen over a few days. See your healthcare professional. Get immediate medical care if you have trouble breathing. And then I think we already went over this. The causes are rodent carriers. And so once a human gets it, a human can pass it to another human. And I think risk factors. So common sites for exposure to rodent nests, urine and droppings include farm buildings, infrequently used buildings such as storage sheds, campers, or seasonal cabins, campsites, or hiking shelters, attics or basements, construction sites, activities that can increase the risk of exposure to the particle, opening and cleaning buildings not used for a long time, cleaning up rodent nests or droppings without appropriate precautions, working in a field that increases exposure to rodents such as construction, utility work, pest control, or farming. All right. I think I will, after reading these prevention methods, guys, I'll drop the link in the chat if you guys want to, but you guys can do a quick Google search and then I'll wind this down. So prevention. Oops, I clicked back on Maya there. Okay. Block access. Okay. So it says keeping rodents out of your home and workplace can help reduce your risk of the particle. Block access. Mice can squeeze through holes as small as a 1/4 inch wide, sealed holes with wire screening, steel, wool, metal, flashing, or cement. Mice can, if it's a opening this. If you've ever worked with mice, you know their bodies are like jelly. They're like jelly, slime, so they can squeeze through little small cracks in the wall very easily. Okay. Close the food buffet. Wash dishes promptly, clean counters and floors, and store your food, including pet food, in rodent-proof containers. Use tight-fitting lids on garbage cans. Reduce nesting material. Clear brush, grass, and junk away from the building's foundation. Set traps. Spring-loaded traps could be set along baseboards. Exercise caution while using poison bait traps, as poison can also harm people and pets. Move rodent-friendly yard items. Move wood piles or compost bins away from the house. air out unused spaces, open up and air out cabins, campers, or rarely used buildings before cleaning. All right, gents, I will stop that there. I will drop this link in the chat. This is from the Mayo Clinic. So the key thing right now at this point seems to be rodents. So I imagine the cruise ships are probably on high alert right now. Royal Caribbean, Carnival. I imagine they're on high alert right now. But that's just them. I mean, and when I showed you guys that footage of the Panama Canal a couple of months ago, and I showed that cruise ship going through the canal, that cruise ship was from Europe. So you have cruise ships coming from Europe. You have going down to South America, going over to Africa. You have all these, ships crisscrossing, people mixing, people sharing germs and fluids and all kinds of things. People flying in airplanes, sharing germs and fluids. So there's all these opportunities to share germs and fluids. And, you never know when somebody is going to pick something up and transmit it to someone else or to the masses. But I just wanted to do this because this has come up in conversations in the YouTube streets. And I said, okay, well, I have a science channel, so why don't I give some commentary on this as well? Hopefully this doesn't lead to another mass confining for all of us. I mean, the summer is just starting and people want to, go out and about. But I think with it's going to be hard to do another mass confining because a lot of people felt like their freedoms were being taken away, and people don't want to be confined again. UFO Kamikaze says snakes regulate the rodent population where I live. Yep, snakes. Yep. Depending upon your spiritual beliefs, the Lord, our God, set up these food chains in a certain way so that things regulate other things. And then Michael says, salute, Doc. Michael, thank you for stopping through. Everybody, please smash that like button before we wrap the stream up. I was going to make a little bit of biology 101. I think one of my first formal lessons about viral particles came from my alma mater, John C. Smith University. There's the golden bull there in front of the DNA strand there. Shout out to Marcus Williams, another JCSU alum, who said you never mention John C. Smith University in your content. You only pump the University of Michigan. So Marcus, I'm talking about our alma mater right now. Dr. Haywood, Dr. Sutton Haywood in Cell Biology 101, Concepts in Modern Biology. Concepts in Modern Biology taught us that viruses are actually not alive. Okay, there's about six criteria for something being alive. Let's see if I can run these off the top of my head. Okay. Something that's alive. It's been years, guys. Okay. It has to be able to reproduce. Okay. It generates waste. It has to be able to reproduce on its own. Okay. It generates waste products. And that means it ingests food. You know what? Let's just look it up. Passport OG, thank you. I got this shirt when I first started this channel. And shout out to Cheryl. Darn, I'm getting myself in trouble this morning. Ditech Corp. Cheryl from Ditech Corp. Dr. Dunbar, why are you walking around with a periodic table on your chest? Criteria for living things. Okay. Dr. Sutton Haywood would slap me on the wrist for forgetting this, but it's been years. But I remember she taught it. Okay. So criteria for living things. Oh, let's just look at this beautiful picture. Criteria for living things. Different levels of organization. Okay. Made up of cells. Peer or a response to the environment. That's a big one. That's a very big one here in the YouTube streets. All right. Growth and development. Okay. Obtains and uses energy and creates waste products. Okay. And reproduces. Okay. So those are all the characteristics of quote unquote living things. And viruses, yeah, they're, I guess you could argue that they're unicellular, but a bacteria and an amoeba, a paramecium, that's unicellular. Okay, but those are considered alive. Response to the environment. Okay, I think this is what viruses are lacking. Obtains and uses energy. But also viruses don't reproduce on their own. They have to hijack cells and reproduce within living cells to reproduce. In any case, long story short, a virus is not a living thing. If you don't take anything away from this discussion, take that away. A virus is not a living thing. All right. We don't go over this at my day job. We talk about pharmacology and toxicology and critical effect levels and target organs. We don't go over these basic principles every single day. UFO Kamikaze says, snakes regulate the poisonous snake population here also. It's a cool arrangement with nature. Yeah, so that underscores the importance of food chains. I promise I'm going to wrap this up. But you guys keep bringing up all these important principles. So you're keeping me here. Maybe one day I could go on PBS and become a big time science communicator and influencer like Maya. Maybe. I need something here to go viral. Or maybe I need to host Neil deGrasse Tyson. Or maybe I need to host Al Gore. Yeah, this is what UFO Kamikaze was getting to. Food chains. Okay. And I think this underscores the importance of not killing off certain species, because species keep each other in check. So you see this was a classic story taught to us back at Johnson C. Smith University. If you kill off that stork up there, now Mr. Crocodile doesn't have food, but also that catfish, and that catfish is going to grow uncontrollably, and everything it eats is going to get devoured. And whatever it eats, what the catfish eats, is going to get devoured. So just by killing off that stork, that bird there, everything can go out of whack for the crocodile. Okay, for the catfish population, for whatever The catfish eats. So everything regulates. Everything is usually something in the wild. Things are regulating each other. That's the takeaway from that. All right. Aquateki, you probably have the last comment here. He says, viruses have to hijack living things to replicate. Exactly. All right, everybody. That's all I've got. It's my 2-day weekend. So I need to make good use of this time that I have here. The clock keeps ticking. And before I know it, Monday morning will be here. It will be time to go back to for more battle and to make more donuts. So that's I don't know how much the mainstream news is covering this new particle, but I wanted to do something to weigh in on it. And we got a little fun discussion about Tornado Alley ahead of that. So if you're watching on the replay, gang, and you have comments or thoughts on any of this, please leave comments in the comments section. Assuming YouTube leaves this up. If you disagree, if you have thoughts, comments, anything, please leave those in the comments section. And if you want to, if you're a part of the replay gang and you want to donate something to the channel, my information is there in the ticker and in the comments section. This is my book. I moved a couple of copies this week, so I'm still moving copies. It looks like just a basketball story. This is called The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story. Thank you to those of you who purchased copies. You know, this is entrepreneurship, so you're under no pressure to buy this. But it looks like a basketball story, just like Hoop Dreams or something like that. There are elements of that, but this also goes back to the ecology cartoon I just showed you. This story is also a lot about men and what happens when men aren't around. And for humans, there are consequences when there aren't adult men around to teach the younger men and provide examples for the younger men to model. Basketball is just one context, but there are a lot of other contexts for why young men need older men around to model. So that's a major theme of this work. This is available on Amazon. But if you want to purchase a copy from me personally, a signed copy, you could use one of those methods in the ticker. Just send me your mailing address the way Money Motion did. You can also go to my online store. Which is here. I believe this link is in the description box below. But that's there if you want to use some form of plastic to purchase a copy. And if you use the coupon code GoBlue, because I am a Michigan alum, that will take $5 off of the list price. The list price is on my online store. If you, for my YouTube subs, I've been offering the paperback and the hardcover. The paperback to you guys for $22 and the hardcover for $27. So that's a nice discount from even my online store. So that's that. So Aquateki, I agree. The weekends are definitely not long enough, even when they're 3-day weekends, even when they're 4-day weekends. They go by just like that. It would be nice to not have to work unless you really wanted to, and it would be nice not to work unless you wanted to. So, or whenever you felt like it, whatever. I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. All right, everybody, enjoy the weekend that you have left, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you all the next time. I almost ended without saying it. Thanks, Tony. You too. I need to go out and get some exercise. All right. Bye-bye.